Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Football. Today, we are in that weird week between the conference championship and the Super Bowl. The Pro Bowl is happening this weekend. We got some flag football happening this Sunday, but we do have our Super Bowl matchup set, and we're going to talk about all of that, as well as taking a look back at the season as a whole and looking ahead to stuff that will be happening in the future. My name is Andrew Howe, joined alongside Xavier. Xavier, how are you doing today?
Great, obviously even better because the Eagles won.
I know. Yeah, it was a big week for your Eagles. Let's start off with that game actually, as we'll review some of the conference championship games. We'll start off in the NFC. The Philadelphia Eagles, kind of making easy work of the Washington Commanders. Final score 55 to 23. Just a dominant performance from the Eagles offense all game long. Saquon Barkley had three rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, also contributed as well. He had three rushing touchdowns, so just really good contributions all around. And then on the other side for the Commanders, their defense didn't really hold up, but still a really great season for them, Xavier.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're a Commanders fan, I'd be very happy of your team. You have a very bright future with a franchise quarterback like Jade Daniels. And we saw the honesty out of AJ Brown. Of course, Saquon had another monster game, and the defense also played amazing. And it's just really extremely tough for a rookie quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl. And Jalen Hurts obviously had a good game, and I know he really wants to go in the Super Bowl, and now he has his chance.
Yeah, I know that the Commanders will be back. I feel like they are in a really good position to keep things going. Obviously, the defense didn't really have what it took, but the Eagles' offense has just been so electric all season long that it made sense that they ended up having a really good time, putting up 55 points in the conference championship game. AJ Brown came to play, 6 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown, and then again Jalen Hurts just on the ground as well. Obviously, a lot of them were like the tush pushes. Did you see the plays where? They had the tush push set up, and then the Washington defense just kept going on the
Yeah,
sides over and over
great.
again. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, and I saw this meme of some guy that jumped on some person on a court on the
Oh
court.
yeah, I saw that too. That was really funny.
That was funny. It's crazy. Yeah, he did it 2 times, but there's really nothing you can do.
That's the thing. It's like you might as well take the penalty because the worst case is you give up half a yard versus scoring a touchdown. So if you end up timing that jump right, maybe it ends up working out. But then the referees had to tell them like, "Hey, stop it," and then obviously they scored after
Yeah, it
that.
would have been crazy if they awarded them with the score. That'd be really funny.
I know. I don't think I've ever seen something like that before. So that would have been a really an interesting one there. Of course, for the Eagles as well, Saquon Barkley, 118 rushing yards, three touchdowns, as we said, including a 60-yarder. Just seems like he's always, having just amazing games here, Xavier. Do you feel like, um, he's one of the best players you've ever watched as an Eagles fan?
Yeah, and he's definitely the best running back I've watched as an Eagles fan in my lifetime. Of course, he is just amazing, and it's he's the best, arguably the best Eagles running back ever. He basically is, and what an amazing season he's had just from coming from the Giants and then going to the Eagles and just having an amazing first year and going to the Super Bowl is kind of crazy. Also an MVP nominee. It's also amazing for a running back.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't normally happen. I feel like a lot of the times the MVP candidates are kind of just all quarterbacks, but it goes to show what kind of season Saquon had. I think we all feel okay that he didn't get the rushing yards record now that his team's going to the Super Bowl, right? So, ends up
Yeah,
working out for them.
it's also his birthday and Cooper DeJean's birthday on the Super Bowl.
Right. Cooper DeJean is actually I think he's younger than me, so he's gonna turn I think 22 during the Super Bowl or 23, and I'm already 23, so that's the really impressive. That's really impressive for me, at least watching him. So, if you are watching the Eagles, though, Xavier, is there any one thing that you're maybe a little bit worried about for them going into the matchup, like just in terms of the game, the gameplay that you've seen so far, or are you feeling really confident about them overall?
I'm feeling confident about them, but of course the Chiefs D is way better than the Commanders D, so we'll see how they hold up in the passing game and if Jalen Hurts has a great game or not. So, before, and also like people like AJ Brown come to play. I think I'm like really confident in the defense. But of course, you got the Chiefs offense, but I think they'll hold them not to like a crazy amount of points. So
Yeah,
I'm feeling pretty.
I feel like the Chiefs, or sorry, the Eagles are gonna have to do a lot both on the running game and the passing game. Have to switch it up, keep Spagnola off guard a little bit there for sure. Okay. Well, we'll move on to the AFC Championship game for a little bit, and then I think maybe next episode we'll do like a really deep dive into the Super Bowl because that's like when it'll be closer to happening here. But the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Buffalo Bills. It seems like for like the fourth or fifth time in the playoffs, and the Chiefs to get revenge on the Bills from earlier on in the regular season at Arrowhead, winning this one 32-29. This was an awesome game, Xavier. There was some turnovers, there was some fourth downs, there was conversations about whether it should have been first downs or not, and then one last ditch effort from Josh Allen at the end, just barely not going in their direction. So, what are your thoughts about this game overall?
Definitely did not disappoint. And this is like the dream game that people were thinking about, except if the Bills won. And of course, the refs made some questionable calls with that Josh Allen first down. And yeah, but both quarterbacks had amazing games. Like both teams had amazing games. And yeah, James Cook had a great game too. Just like the Patrick Mahomes luck, I feel like he's winning by 3 points to a quarterback who really wants to win it, but in the end he comes on top, and Josh Allen just falls short a year again.
Yeah, the very last play basically of the whole game. Fourth down, Josh Allen has to get something going. He scrambles around and then as he's getting hit, he throws the ball up in the air and I thought like, okay, like of course like he's not going to end up happening after the Chiefs send in that blitz. But then Dalton Kincaid almost catches the ball. It goes off of both of his hands, but he just barely is unable to hang on. I mean, that was a tough catch. That would have been a tough catch, but if he caught it, I mean, what an awesome play that would have been.
Yeah, I do feel bad for him because I feel like people are a bit over hating on him because,
Oh
but
yeah.
he definitely have to die for that ball with a Josh Allen like fastball coming at you. So I feel like it's not his fault at all, and that it
Definitely
was a
not.
really tough catch.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Josh Allen had a good game. I mean, you could blame the referees a little bit just for that like first down call, but there's no guarantee that even if they get that first down, they end up scoring a touchdown anyway. And then also on top of that is that there was a lot of other mistakes that the Bills also made on the offensive end that were a little bit uncharacteristic of what they did all season. Think about the first quarter, some of the first plays of the game. Josh Allen nearly had two passes intercepted in just that first drive. They both ended up getting dropped. And he also had three fumbles. All three of them were recovered. But that's like stuff from Josh Allen that we didn't normally see throughout the season. But it seems like even though it didn't end up coming back to bite them, there was some pressure that was put on him that definitely showed.
Yeah, the fumbles were a big part, and the Chiefs did a great job forcing a lot of turnovers. And just tough on Josh Allen because he kind of like his team basically like carried his team on his back and just couldn't do it. But of course, you're running into Patrick Mahomes, and like there's nothing you can really do except for try his best, and that's what he did.
Yeah, and Mahomes, three total touchdowns, including two on the ground. I think overall having a really good game. This is actually the most points the Chiefs have scored all season long, 32 points. They did not score more than 30 throughout the entire season, even though they won 15 games in the regular season. Kind of unbelievable that this is. I mean, this is a relatively pedestrian number, and they still ended up just barely hitting it here. Um, but overall, it seems like the Chiefs always come to play when it matters most. It's another one possession game that they end up winning, Xavier, and it just kind of is ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, it is. And of course, now all the fans are gonna be rooting for the Eagles, and I'm happy for that. And of course, no one wants Chiefs to three-peat. No one wants Mahomes to really be happy. And well, in the end, if they win, a lot of fans are going to be not happy. That's all I know.
It would be pretty cool. I think it's nice to take a step back and just think about the fact that, there's not a lot of times in sports these days where you see a dynasty like any team winning three championships in a row. Obviously, it's never been done in the NFL, but even the last time it happened, I think in any big sport was the Yankees, and that was before I was born, back in like 1998. So, um, just goes to show how dominant of a team this has been historically. And so even though I think we'll all be a little bit sad to see the Chiefs win again because it would be nice to see another team win. It would be cool to think about it like in the long term. Like we were alive to watch the first ever NFL three-peat in history. So that's the silver lining that I'm going to take here as we prepare for the Super Bowl. But I know you're going to be rooting for the Eagles no matter what.
Yeah,
Okay,
100%.
real quick before we move on to our next topic, did you get to watch any of the Pro Bowl activities that happened yesterday?
I saw a bit. All I know is that NFC's on top, right?
I think so, yeah. I think they're winning by like 7 points or something, but I don't know how it
Yeah,
exactly works.
the NFL did a great job for like the activities. I thought they were like really fun, especially like the one where you had to spike the ball the hardest. That was pretty cool.
I know, yeah. I like how they, because for the games and stuff like that, there's obviously like the easy ones to figure out for the wide receivers. You had that catching game for the quarterbacks. You have the passing game. But I like how they were able to find different activities for like the linemen and the defensive players to do as well, even though they're not necessarily the skill positions. But things like the spike was fun. I like the trivia questions that they asked the players too that got their quarterbacks extra time, and then also the bit where the two teammates had to go up on stage and answer questions about each other. That was pretty fun as
Oh
well.
yeah, that was really cool.
So I always am confused though. Why is there dodgeball? Because dodgeball is like not like football very much at all, but it's just like kind of like a fun game, I guess.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one here. Okay, another quick question as well, because there's going to be the flag football game this Sunday in the Pro Bowl. Now, here's my question to you, Xavier. In flag football is coming to the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028. So it's going to be an Olympic
Oh
sport during the
yeah.
summer. If you had to make your dream team for the United States, the team that would be going to the Olympics for flag football, who are some of the players that you would pick for that?
Well, I'm putting Justin Jefferson at wide receiver, definitely.
Okay.
Um, and then I'd also take I'll take Lamar at quarterback because he's so fast. And then uh who is your dream wide receiver?
Okay,
Who
so
you
so
feel?
here's my thing is that it's a bit of a different game. So obviously in the Pro Bowl on Sunday they're going to be playing kind of like 11 on 11, but in the or something similar to that. But in the Olympics it's going to be 5 on 5, and so I feel like for that you're going to need a lot more quicker players. You're going to need like a lot of speed. So I agree with you. Like having Lamar is going to be good. Having Justin Jefferson is going to be good. Um, Other than that,
Oh,
it's a lot of passing as well. So you're gonna need somebody with a good arm. I think Lamar has that, but you could also go a different route, go like a Joe Burrow, somebody with a little bit more
yeah.
arm strength maybe too.
Oh, and then I'd put Jamar Chase definitely,
Yeah. And then
and
maybe
maybe Tyreek because
yeah,
he
I
is so
think
fast.
Tyreek would be cool. I wonder if once it gets to 2028 if he's a little bit too old because he's like, he might be like 33, 34 at that point, but that
Yeah.
would be I think it'd be cool I really hope that the NFL lets some of their players go to the Olympics. 'Cause I think that would be such a cool opportunity for them.
Uh huh.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to see like Lamar like dominating these like flag football games. And just like throwing
I
it
know,
to like
playing against all these like other countries and stuff, that'd be kind of funny. But I think like how in like 3-on-3 basketball, the U.S. is like really not that good because they don't put like any of their star players in it. I think
yeah,
I hope that doesn't happen for flag football. It's like because flag football is like the American sport, and so if like they have like these American guys that we don't know about, and then they end up like
yeah.
not
If they
doing too
have like
good.
USFL All Stars, people aren't gonna know them. So it's
Exactly,
like
exactly. So I hope that they have some of their NFL superstars go over there and play. All right, we have a couple of other things that we wanted to do on this show. The first thing is take a look at some of the overperformers and underperformers of the 2024 season. Now, obviously, coming in, there were different expectations for certain teams, and what we're going to do is go through each of them and talk about some teams that ended up overperforming expectations and then underperforming their expectations. Let's start with the overperformers, Xavier. Teams that did not have a lot of expectations coming in, but ended up, I think, ending really happy about how their seasons ended up going. You want to go first?
yeah, I'm gonna go with the Commanders just because last year they were what like 3-14, and now they made it to the conference championship with a franchise rookie quarterback. I mean, like general managing of that team's got to be really happy because they put together this team that that added on 9 more wins than they did last season and made it to the conference championship, which is kind of crazy, and have the rookie of the year. So
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a really good choice. The Commanders last season, it felt like they were kind of stagnant. They had just like Austin Eckler and Brian like sticks sitting around. They had um what was it, Sam Howell as their starting quarterback. So it wasn't really a good situation for them, but they ended up doing pretty well at the end of the year. My overperformer is going to be the Denver Broncos. They didn't end up doing too well in the playoffs, Xavier, but going into the year, everybody kind of pictured them as being one of the worst teams in the entire NFL. They just had a really bad year with Russell Wilson as their quarterback, who they ended up dropping him, and then they signed this, they draft this guy Bo Nix, who not a lot of people had too many expectations for, but Bo Nix ended up playing really well. The defense for Denver obviously was the shining light, and they ended up making the playoffs in a year that I don't think a lot of people were expecting them to. So that I think they're a pretty big overachiever as well, all things considered. I was also thinking about giving it to the Minnesota Vikings because I think a lot of people didn't expect them to make the playoffs, and they ended up winning 14 games. But I think the end of the season for them kind of made things a little bit worse, just all things considered, with them like losing pretty badly in the playoffs. So.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about our underachievers then. And a team that we've had a lot of high expectations for, but it didn't end up working out well for them.
Um, I'm gonna go with the Bengals just because they didn't even make the playoffs, even though they ended on a 5 game winning streak. I feel like that's something to say, but of course they're 9-8. People expected them to be a really big contender and like even like the Super Bowl this year. They definitely thought they were going to make the playoffs, of course, with Joe Burrow and their offense, but their defense really just like didn't come to play. And I really thought they're going to be a great team. I thought they're going to like at least make it to the divisional round, but they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of really sloppy losses for them, especially at the start of the season. There was also some heartbreakers, like both of the games that they had against the Ravens and things like that. But I most notably go back to Week 1 against the Patriots, where they lost 16-10, and there was like a big fumble that they lost in the end zone. Like there were so many opportunities for them to win that game. It was also right when Jamar like never was not practicing with them at all for the start of the season, and so that is where I look as like, oh man, like this Bengals team could have been so good, especially with the run that they had at the end of the year. But it is interesting to put a team as an underperformer after they have a winning record. But I agree with you. Like this team, whenever you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on the same team, like that's a team that you have to expect to like go on a run to potentially make the Super Bowl every year. And the fact that they didn't even make the playoffs was pretty bad.
Yeah.
My underperformer, I have a couple that I'm looking at here.
Oh, I have a
Um,
couple too now.
we could keep going back and forth a little bit here as well. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, I was going to
They
choose that.
won. They made it to the Super Bowl. They won the NFC last season, and they just never got it going. A lot of it had to do with injuries, actually, of course, as well, because their defense ended up getting pretty hurt. Christian McCaffrey played like 2 games all season, and it never seemed like any of their wide receiver core really got going. But I think now, after this is happening, it's another year of McCaffrey getting older, another year of some of their big linemen and defenders getting hurt or getting older as well, and you have to think like with Brock Purdy potentially being up for an extension this season, like what direction does this team want to go? Do they want to keep trying to contend, or has that window of a Super Bowl potentially gone away?
Yeah, definitely. And I thought they're going to be a great team, but like, and then like CMC got injured, and then their whole entire team started falling down, and they ended with not even close to like a winning record. It's kind of sad for a team that made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully for them they're able to turn things around, but I think that's a really interesting roster to look at. It's like hard to see where they can potentially make upgrades, and they have some tough decisions to make, I think, this offseason. Is there any other underperformers you want to talk about? I feel like there was actually a good amount of them this year.
Yeah, I feel like there's actually a ton of underperformers. Um, there's two that kind of stand out to me, kind of. I mean, you got the Jets over there. Even though they weren't great last year, I feel like a ton of people thought they're going to be really good with just Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
and they really. I thought a ton of people thought they're going to be great, but of course, 5-12. and also the Cowboys, just because they had a good team last year. CeeDee Lamb was amazing. Like Dak Prescott gets injured, and their whole entire like everyone like doesn't really like them now, and like Jerry Jones does things up and stuff like that. And yeah, the organization's kind of falling down. Looks like now.
Yeah, it definitely seems like some organizational mismanagement there in Dallas. I mean, Uh, it feels like it felt like though even before Dak got hurt that the team really was struggling in a lot of other areas as well. I mean, didn't they lost a game? I want to say like towards the beginning of the season, yeah, to the Lions. They lost to the Lions 47-9, and that was I think with Dak playing for them. So that was a tough loss for them. Obviously, and then of course after he got hurt, there was really no chance of them making any sort of a run back. So that's another interesting team that I'm not sure what they're going to be doing this offseason.
Uh-huh. I mean, there's definitely a ton of things to cover up just because. I mean, you went 7-10. Your defense kind of looked a little hopeful at the end of the year, but your offense definitely needs some work with Dak not really playing his best. And there's just like a ton of questions in that like general managing, like what are they going to do? Like fire the coach, who are they going to get? Stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. One last underperformer, real quick. Chicago Bears. I feel like a lot of people thought that they were going to be making the playoffs potentially, or going to run to make the playoffs. But with the outburst of the Vikings, as well as Matt Eberflus really getting fired in the middle of the season and things like that, never ended up really materializing for them. But I still think that they have a good chance at doing well overall eventually. It's just not this year. Maybe with Ben Johnson coming in, things will change over there for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just not their year. And they don't look like they're going down. They just look like they're building up. You know what I mean? Even though everyone thought they were going to make the playoffs and stuff, they got Caleb Williams. Caleb started getting better at the end of the season, and just a ton of guys like progressing on their team. So I think they have a good shot next season, but this year just not their year. With all those like losses and like the coaching, it's just hard on Caleb Williams. But I think he has potential to be a star.
Me too. Yeah, I hope the Bill. I think the Bears are in a good position to do some good stuff this offseason and then get their way into the playoffs finally for the first time in what seems like a while. Okay, last thing we want to do on this show before we wrap things up is take a look at previewing the free agent class for this offseason. Now, obviously, there's a lot of time until players are going to start signing deals, but already you hear the rumblings about who could be interested in this player, who could be interested in that player. So we're going to go through some of the biggest names and maybe kind of try to guess like which teams are going to be trying to pick them up and sign them this offseason. The first one that I want to mention is probably the biggest name in terms of free agency, and that's T. Higgins on the Cincinnati Bengals. He has been the wide receiver two for that team for a little bit, with Jamar Chase really becoming one of the best receivers in the whole NFL. But he's gotten a lot of success over there. But now people are wondering if he wants to potentially go to another team or if he wants to stay in Cincinnati. Xavier, what do you think about that whole situation?
Well, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals might not be able to pay all three of the guys, Jamar, him, and Joe Burrow, just because of how great they are. And I think T wants to stay, but I don't know if he's gonna get the money or if the Bengals really like want. They're probably not gonna. He's the Bengals are probably not gonna give him the most money, but it really depends if he wants the money or if he wants a team.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I know that there were reports about Joe Burrow like potentially being interested in restructuring his contract a little bit to allow for some extra cap space and things like that, but I'm not 100% sure if that's gonna necessarily happen. So, um, we'll see. I'm curious to see what they do. I know Joe Burrow has been and he's been really vocal about wanting to keep all three of those guys. But if they have to pay Jamar, like I'm wondering if another team goes out and tries to throw a bag at him. I know there were some rumblings about the Patriots wanting to potentially get him. Do you think that's like a good fit, or is there another team that like catches your eye as potentially being a good spot for him?
Yeah. Um, I also, yeah, it's just like definitely he could like I think that a team is definitely gonna try to throw the money at him. It's really just his decision. I think the Pats, yeah, he'd be a pretty good fit because they do need a wide receiver. but it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I don't really have another team in mind for his side. Yeah.
The Patriots actually have the most cap space in the entire league this offseason. They have $125 million to spend, so they're definitely gonna try to find some superstars over there. Speaking of wide receivers, this is a bit of a different case here, but Stephon Diggs is going to be a free agent this offseason as well. You might remember he signed a big extension with earlier, but um, that when he got traded to the Texans, things got a little bit swapped around where he would be a free agent at the end of this year, and it ends up kind of paying back, not working out for them super well as he had a season-ending ACL injury, obviously, and was unable to finish the season. And now Stephon Diggs, I think he's 32 years old. Do you think that he has
Yeah,
a good opportunity to sign a big deal somewhere, or do you think teams are going to be a little bit more hesitant to pick him up now?
I feel like teams are going to be a little less hesitant just because he's getting older and of course that injury. But I think some team will try to get him. I'm looking at the Ravens here, and it seems like he could be great there. I'm just seeing a bit of rumors, and but he'd be a great weapon for Lamar to throw to. Not saying he'll be a star, but he's just another weapon that he could use on like some third downs and clutch moments.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that would be a good fit just because I feel like the Ravens, if they had like another big offensive weapon, having Rashad Bateman and stuff is nice. And Zay Flowers obviously was a Pro Bowler this season, but another star like that, and in a situation where he could kind of be like the wide receiver two or even wide receiver three, and just maybe space out his time on the field and not have to be the primary option every game, could definitely be a good fit for him. Is there any other free agents that you have in mind that you want to look at right now? Because I have another player here,
Mm,
Khalil Mack, who is on the Chargers. He's a big linebacker for them, always a big superstar. He's turning 34, I think, this offseason. And so the question for the Chargers is how much money do they potentially want to save on him?
yeah, and I mean he is getting old, but he had a great year, and I mean if you really trust in him, you'd throw him money, but I don't know what their cap space is looking like, or if another team will try to get them. But I feel like a few teams will be hesitant just because of his age.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely a good fit for him, though, because the defense for the Chargers worked out so well. I wonder if, Harbaugh being there, like they just want to like keep him around, that he'd be willing to sign like a cheaper deal potentially to stick around. That could be a fun story to watch, and as these different players get older and things like that. Last one that I want to talk about here is a quarterback. It's a big one, Sam Darnold. Of course, he had his big breakout season. He's at the Pro Bowl right now, but there's some questions about what the Vikings may want to do after some of his underperformances towards the end of the season. Xavier, what do you think is going to happen here with the quarterback room in Minnesota?
Sam had a great year, but now you're gonna have to pay him more just because of how great he is. Has great season, but I don't really know if they want to have a quarterback who might not do as well in the playoffs. Um, um, JJ McCarthy a shot. Um, I think they end up keeping him for one more year, not like a big contract, just because they could just have a shot and see if he has it in him. Just because one and done, and he had a great season, so I just feel like just a small contract, but yeah, they're gonna have to pay him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would love that to have that option, but do you think a team like the Las Vegas Raiders or, even like the Tennessee Titans or something, if they decide to go a different direction in the draft, do you think they would throw a big contract at Sam Darnold and try to get him to go over there? And do you think he'd be willing to maybe go to a team that's not as competitive just to get some extra money?
I think Sam now. I think all he wants is really to win, just because of his career, just because all of his expectations, and he still hasn't won a playoff game. I really think he just wants to win right now in his heart rather than money because he's already got what he needs. He just wants to win. You know what I mean? Because I think he's really coming into the league looking to be a star quarterback on a great team, like winning like a ton of playoff games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. I would be very surprised if he ends up taking this giant deal somewhere else because I feel like the situation over there in Minnesota worked out so well for him. Everybody in the clubhouse loves him there, but money always is a big issue, is a big conversation. We saw Kirk Cousins leave this offseason as well, so that's another thing to keep in mind as we go forward here. I would love to see like a competition between him and JJ during training camp to see who gets the starting job, but of course, we'll have to wait and see. All right, that's gonna do it, I think, for this episode of This Week in Football, Xavier. Next week is the Super Bowl. Very exciting for your Eagles and things like that. Any last words before we sign off?
Peace.
Peace out, everyone. We'll see you for the Super Bowl episode.